Here, get the out of the country. This is Jewish country only. We don't need Muslims here.
As rapture is arriving soon and so close, some end-time prophecies are being fulfilled worldwide. Among other nations, one is Israel, where some unusual events are happening in this sacred land. So, let's explore these strange signs and how terrifying they are in this eye-opening video. The first sign appears to be the reconstruction of the Third Temple. The Third Temple is a special holy place people want to build in Jerusalem. It's supposed to be even more important than the old temples that were destroyed. Even though it hasn't been built yet, it's very important in Judaism, especially for Orthodox Jews. They believe it's the most sacred place for them to worship. The Hebrew Bible says that the prophets wanted this new temple to be built when the Messiah came. Some Christians also think it's important for the end of the world. But there's a problem. The place where they want to build the Third Temple is also where Muslims have a special building called the Dome of the Rock. So there's a big argument about it. The Temple Mount has caused many problems between Israelis and Palestinians. They argue about who should control it. Even though many countries don't agree with Israel about Jerusalem being their capital, they're still trying to build the Third Temple. But it's not easy because of all the arguments. Jewish people can't worship there freely, and some Muslim people, especially women in black clothes, stay there to keep Jewish tourists away. Muslim leaders say there was never a temple there, which makes the situation even more complicated. Moreover, the more terrifying thing is that a special ceremony for the Third Temple happened on October 12th. In this ceremony, they reenacted an ancient tradition with water. Many people joined in, including priests called Kohanim, who wore special clothes, and Levites, who played musical instruments. They all started at Shahar Hashpat in the old city of Jerusalem. Together they walked along old paths to get to Shiloh, which is also known as Siloam Springs. This place was used during the time of the temple. As they walked, they chanted, danced, and played silver trumpets at different stops. Important rabbis were there too. At Shiloh, they used a golden jug to collect water, and then they went back to the top of the mountain. They set up a model altar and special tools, and decorated them with big leafy branches like they used to do in the ancient temple. The ceremony ended with a special blessing from the priests and the Hakhel ceremony, which happens every 7 years. Even though the Torah, which is a holy book, doesn't say they have to do this water ceremony, it's part of a tradition that comes from what Moses taught orally. People see it as a happy holiday. In the temple, this ceremony would last for 15 hours, and they would keep celebrating all night until the next morning when the temple service started again. People from different countries participated in the Sukkot celebrations, making it an international day of worship. They did this water ceremony for the last 6 days of the Sukkot holiday and poured wine during the morning service. The Kohanim filled a flask with spring water and went from the temple to the Shiloh spring at the bottom of Mount Moriah. Then, 2 Kohanim went up to the stone altar in the temple's inner courtyard and poured wine and water into special holes made just for this ceremony. Besides the reconstruction of the Third Temple, some recent evidence of an ancient temple was found. New research has found evidence supporting the idea of an old temple being where the Temple Mount is now. This site is very important to Jewish and Muslim people. Some researchers discovered a special place used by Jewish people for religious cleaning under the Al-Aqsa Mosque. Muslims believe that this mosque was built by Abraham a long time ago. This finding is important because it goes against the idea that there was never a Jewish temple there. In the past, a British archaeologist named Robert Hamilton looked at the mosque's foundations after it fell down in 1927 because of an earthquake. He found something interesting. He found a Jewish pool called a mikveh under the mosque's floor. Jewish people used this pool when the Second Temple existed for special cleansing before they went to the Temple Mount. These new discoveries, which were hidden in old British records, show that there was an old temple at the Temple Mount, a holy place for Jewish people. Now comes the scary trumpet sounds in the sky in Israel. In the middle part of Israel, some strange and powerful sounds echoed, confusing many people. Even the army and police couldn't figure out why it was happening. People started talking about it on social media. They said they felt really loud booms and strong vibrations in places like Gush Dan, Tel Aviv, and Petah Tikva. The sounds even reached a place called Julis, which is 50 kilometers away from where it started. The Israel police and the army were puzzled and couldn't give a clear answer about what was causing these explosions. This strange sound phenomenon isn't just happening in Israel. Similar weird sounds, often called sky trumpets or skyquakes, have recently been reported in different parts of the world. People from countries like the United States, Canada, Costa Rica, Russia, the Czech Republic, and Australia have talked about hearing low-frequency hums and noises like trumpets or horns coming from the sky or deep underground. What's really strange about these sounds is that they're new and unusual. Most people have never heard anything like them, making them even more mysterious. They have a spooky quality, like groaning noises and metallic vibrations that sound like musical instruments. Some people even say they hear unclear voices mixed in with these strange sounds. So, could these sounds mean something important? Are they a sign of the end of the world or something like that? Some people think about biblical stories that talk about trumpets, and based on those stories, it is predicted that these sounds define the end of the world as near. Also, in a book called Revelation, there are stories about 7 trumpets. Each of these trumpets is blown by an angel, and they signal really big and scary events that were shown to a person named John of Patmos in his dreams. In these stories, the trumpets come after the opening of a special seal, and it's a big deal because this seal holds important information from a powerful figure. These trumpets were called salpinx in Greek, and they look different from the trumpets we have today. They were made of bronze and had a narrow, straight shape, with mouthpieces made of bone and bells. They were not like modern trumpets. The last 3 trumpets are called the woe trumpets, and they're really important because they announce some very distressing things that happen in the stories. These trumpet sounds have a deep meaning in the stories, and they make the events in the book of Revelation even more significant. Presence of red heifer in Israel. A long time ago, God told Moses and Aaron to get a special red cow in the book of Numbers. This cow had to be perfect with no blemishes, never pregnant, and never used for work. They would use this cow for a special ceremony to make people clean again if they touched a dead body. Here's how it worked. They would burn the cow and mix its ashes with water. If someone became unclean by touching a dead body, they would sprinkle this special water with ashes on them twice, once 3 days after touching the body and again 7 days later. The Torah also tells us that a long time ago, they brought a red heifer to a priest named Eleazar, Aaron's son, and used it to make the ashes for this ceremony. They used those ashes until the first temple period ended. During the second temple time, they burned 5 to 7 more red heifers for their ashes. Maimonides, a famous Jewish scholar, said the next red heifer would come with the Messiah. Recently, 5 red heifers arrived in Israel from Texas. These heifers are less than a year old, and if they stay completely red without any blemishes, they can be used to make the special ashes needed by Jewish law to purify people who touched dead bodies. This purification is important so that priests, Kohanim, can do their work in a future temple. The heifers are now in quarantine in Haifa, Israel for at least 7 days, following the rules of the Israel Veterinary Authority. After that, they'll be sent to 2 different places in Israel, and one will eventually be open to the public. These heifers will be taken care of until they are 3 years old, and then they can be turned into ashes. The Boneh Israel organization, which includes Jews and Christians, helped find and bring these heifers to Israel, and when they arrived in Israel, people got terrified as yet another end-time prophecy was fulfilled. So what do you think of the strange rapture signs that happened in Israel? Are you too terrified? Comment below and subscribe for more.